Hello and welcome to DOZ Monologues, hosted by Eturuvie Erebor. DOZ Monologues, also known as DOZ Chronicles Audio Stories, aims to educate, inspire, and drive societal change. All stories are written and narrated by Eturuvie Erebor, and all rights are reserved, including the right of reproduction in whole or in part in any form. This is episode 16, titled Becoming Family. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. Becoming Family. I was 13 years old and a child when Uncle Akpo molested me. Even before he did, I had grown weary of him, as he frequently and openly eyed my chest, which had begun to develop. When he entered my room, I recognized him instantly by the smell of beer mixed with the cheap cologne he wore. He was a drunk who stopped by the beer parlor and drank several bottles before coming home. I shut my eyes tightly and pretended to be asleep as he crept in the darkness, trying to avoid waking his wife, Aunt Edeki, who was sleeping in the main bedroom next door with their twin toddlers. My heart raced and my body stiffened as the mattress dipped under his weight. Soon after, I felt his body pressing against mine and his hand groping me. "Uncle, please stop," I pleaded, pushing his hand away. He hit me across the face. "Close your mouth. Are you crazy?" he asked, his voice gruff and low, clearly annoyed. "What is wrong with you?" Concerned that the sound of our voices might have disturbed Aunt Edeki, he quietly got off the mattress and left the room. I remained awake, unable to fall asleep. The next day, when I returned home from school, my aunt informed me that he had refused to pay my school fees. "I don't know what you have done to upset your uncle, you foolish girl," she shouted. "When he returns home from work this evening, go on your knees and beg him for forgiveness." For the next 5 years, until I finished secondary school, this was how I lived. My uncle would sneak into my bedroom and grope me. When I pushed his hands away, he would threaten to either kick me out or stop paying my school fees. Whenever he made these threats, my aunt would tell me to kneel and plead with him. Sometimes she would even hit me with her shoe for upsetting her husband. However, she never asked me what had happened, and I was too scared to tell her the truth. Aunt Edeki was my father's sister. When I was 8 years old, I went to live with her after my mother died, as the woman my father married didn't want me around. Without hesitation, my father put me on a bus from Warri to Port Harcourt to stay with his younger sister. Aunt Edeki sent me to school, and in return, I worked at her hairdressing salon after classes. 2 years later, she met Uncle Akpo, and they got married. I then moved with her to their marital home, where my responsibilities increased as I helped take care of their twins from birth. When I finished secondary school, an opportunity to leave Port Harcourt presented itself. While I was working at my aunt's saloon, a customer, Mrs. Banigo, approached me and offered me a job at a beauty salon she was opening in Lagos. The position also included a room above the salon. She had been poaching talented workers and had watched me for some time, recognizing that I was not only skilled at hairstyling, but also dedicated to my work. Taking the job with her felt like a betrayal of my aunt, but I didn't care. I secretly plotted with her, without informing my aunt and uncle, and left abruptly, never looking back. Her salon catered to high-end clientele, and was a significant upgrade from Aunt Edeki's salon. While working there, I met a lovely woman named Nengi, who came in every weekend to have her hair styled. She will bring her 5-year-old daughter, Ini, along. Nengi liked the way I did her hair and became very loyal, insisting that only I could style her hair and Ini's. She was a kind woman and a generous tipper. For a year, she would come in on weekends and we would chat while I did her hair and her daughter's. Initially, our conversations were just small talk, but as the months passed, she became more interested in my personal life and began asking me questions. I told how I had fled from my aunt's home after years of being molested by her husband. "That's truly unfortunate," she said. "I can't imagine being married to such a terrible man." She shared wonderful stories about her husband. I could see the sparkle in her eyes as she talked. It was clear that she was deeply in love with him, a love that comes from being treated well by the man one marries. She told me they met while in university and that he had touched no woman apart from her. "Nefe, my husband is a man of integrity," she declared. "If he tells me that the car outside is blue, I will not check. I will take his word for it. That's how much I trust him. And it's not blind trust. He has earned it." As she spoke, I silently prayed that God would bless me with a good man like Nengi's husband, rather than a man like my father, who was willing to abandon his child, or like Uncle Akpo, who abused the child under his roof. Nengi was especially concerned about my education. "You are intelligent," she remarked one day as we talked. "Now that you've left your aunt and her abusive husband, consider going to school." Before that conversation with Nengi, the thought of returning to school had never truly crossed my mind. Having escaped from the daily torment of an abusive household, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude that I hadn't considered pursuing anything more. My job at the salon was demanding and took up most of my time. This left me wondering how I could possibly balance furthering my education with my current responsibilities. Financial concerns also weighed heavily on my mind. I questioned whether I could manage the added burden of school fees alongside my existing bills. Despite these uncertainties, I found myself determined to try. On her last visit, as she was leaving, Nengi handed me a huge tip, bigger than anything she had given me before. "I'm traveling abroad for the summer break with my husband and Ini for 3 weeks," she said. "Use this money to take that first step toward returning to school, no matter how small. When I come back next month, I want to hear all about what you've accomplished." Within a month of my conversation with Nengi, I registered for the JAM exam, began attending classes during my time off, and spent a couple of hours each morning studying before heading to the salon for work. I intended to share my progress with Nengi, but the opportunity never arose. She didn't arrive for her hair appointment when she said she would. After a month of anticipating her arrival, I was shocked to learn of her death, and in the worst possible way. A customer visited the salon for a hairstyle and brought a bag filled with her hair products. It was a souvenir from an event. When she set the bag down, I noticed a photo of Nengi along with her name, surname, and date of birth and death. I was genuinely shocked and deeply saddened to learn of Nengi's passing. The news was completely unexpected and left me feeling distressed and at a loss for words. The woman kindly provided me with Nengi's home address, which was also her final resting place. The following evening, when I felt a bit more composed, I visited her home. I had never met her husband, and he did not know me, but I felt compelled to pay my respects, offer my condolences, and see little Ini, who was now without her mother. Nengi lived in a plush neighborhood of Lagos, a realm of sleek streets and elegant homes, far more lavish than the bustling area where the salon was nestled. When I arrived at her home and approached the imposing wrought iron gates, I was met by a uniformed security guard who questioned me at length. "Who are you here to see? Is Mr. David West expecting you? What organization are you with? What is your full name? What is the purpose of your visit? How do you know the late Mrs. David West? Have you been here before?" His questions came at me so quickly that I felt overwhelmed. I could barely answer one before he moved on to the next. I wasn't sure what I expected. After all, I was in a wealthy man's house. Although Nengi was friendly, she seemed clearly out of my league, and her home was not one I could casually enter. I felt torn between walking away with my tail between my legs and pleading with him to let me at least say hello to little Ini, when I heard a male voice from somewhere inside the compound. "Let her in." The voice was gentle yet firm, allowing for no arguments. The gate man opened almost instantly, and I stepped into the expansive grounds. I looked around at the large house, the parking area filled with exotic cars, the garden, and the swimming pool, before my gaze settled on a man dressed in a black two-piece kaftan, standing on the paved veranda. "Good evening, sir," I greeted, as I slowly and cautiously approached the man whom I instinctively recognized as Nengi's husband. He was just as I'd imagined him, based on Nengi's words. I was going to compare him to my aunt's husband, the drunk pervert who groped me at night and eyeballed my chest during the day, but I immediately stopped and dismissed it. The man, though a stranger, seemed decent to me. It was wrong to compare him to my uncle. "Good evening," he replied, looking at me and noticing the wreath I held, which I had bought on my way. "I assume you're here to pay your final respects?" I nodded. Nengi, Mrs. David West, was a regular client at the salon where I work. She came in with her daughter Ini every weekend, and for a year I did their hair. She was very kind to me. I blinked back the tears as he gestured for me to follow him into the garden, where I noticed for the first time the mausoleum partially hidden amongst a clutter of small palm trees. "I'm truly sorry for your loss," I said softly, hoping to convey some comfort. He nodded in response. Unsteady on my feet, I approached the grave, still unable to believe that the lovely Nengi was dead and buried there. I bent down and gently placed my wreath, muttering words to her about the steps I had taken toward my education. I thanked her for her kindness and encouragement. Feeling suddenly overwhelmed by the memory of losing my mother, I broke down and cried. Then something unexpected happened. The man picked me up and pulled me into his arms. I went willingly, finding comfort in his embrace, as I wept for the loss of a woman I believed would play a significant role in my journey. There was nothing inappropriate about his touch. It was a moment of solace in my grief. "Tam, who is she?" The voice belonged to a woman, and it sounded unfriendly, irritated, and accusatory. It jolted me back to reality. I realized I didn't know this man well enough to seek comfort from him. I pulled away, and together we turned to face the direction from which the voice had come. The woman was tall, slender, and very beautiful. She resembled Nengi, but lacked her warmth. Before I could say anything, Ini appeared behind her. Upon seeing me, she shrieked with joy and ran into my arms. "Auntie Nefe!" I picked her up and hugged her tight, and fresh tears flowed down my cheeks. "Please do not cry in front of the child," the woman snapped. "It's fine, Dobra," Mr. David West said gently. "She's just received the news and is still trying to process it." I ignored them both and focused on Ini. "How are you?" I asked. "I am fine, Auntie Nefe," she said, and scrambled down from my arms, pointing to the mausoleum as she did. "Mom is gone to heaven, did you know that?" I smiled and nodded at her as I blinked back my tears. Before I could say anything, the woman looked at me. "Thank you for coming to pay your respects. However, it's getting late and we would like some time alone as a family." She glanced at Mr. David West. "Dinner is ready, Tam." Mr. David West turned to me. "Why don't you join us for dinner?" he asked. "I would love to hear a bit more about you, and perhaps we can make some arrangements for how Ini's hair will be done in the future." The woman frowned instantly, and I immediately shook my head and said I should be on my way, but Ini tugged at my hand. "Please, Auntie Nefe, stay and eat with us." I couldn't refuse her, so I stayed. During the lavish meal, I tried to ignore the disdainful stares and sarcastic comments from Dobra, who I learned was Nengi's younger sister. She was temporarily staying with Tam, who asked me to call him that, and Ini, to help them adjust to life without Nengi. I discovered Nengi had been briefly ill after returning from her holiday in Greece with Ini and Tam. After dinner, I didn't leave immediately because Ini wanted me, not her nanny, to bathe her and tuck her into bed. Her father happily agreed, so I did, and then I left. As Ini's hair needed styling, it was arranged that the nanny would bring her to the salon the following day to have her hair done. However, instead of the nanny, it was Dobra who brought her in, and she had a little chat with me. "I don't know what kind of relationship you had with my older sister, Nengi, but I suggest you understand your place and stay within those boundaries," she said. "I will not tolerate a repeat of what happened yesterday. You are the stylist who does Ini's hair, and that is your role. You are not welcome at the dinner table. Just because Tam asked you to use his first name, it doesn't mean you should. He was being polite, so please show him the respect he deserves when you address him, or I will speak to your employer about your inappropriate behavior." While I thought Mr. David West was a good man and handsome, I wasn't romantically interested in him. I was also appreciative of the fact that he was mourning his wife. I distanced myself so as not to create the wrong impression, only engaging with Ini when her nanny brought her in on the weekends to make her hair. As my JAMB exam approached, my life became increasingly busy. A year later, I attended a one-year memorial service at Ini's invitation, but I kept my distance from Mr. David West and left immediately after the service. At that point, I had begun my undergraduate journey, juggling school and work. Ini and I often talked about my studies, and she asked many questions about my new experiences. I was unaware she shared our conversations with her father. 3 months later, Christmas arrived, and I was busy at work when a man I recognized as Mr. David West's driver came to see me. He brought a parcel from his boss. It contained a beautiful pink laptop, along with a card that read, "I hope this helps you in your educational pursuits. Merry Christmas." His kindness had a profound effect on me and left a lasting impression. I wanted to express my gratitude, so early in January, when Ini came to the salon to get her hair done, I asked her to call her dad, but she refused. "Dad said you need to come to the house if you want to say thank you." Her response was unexpected, but I supposed it was the right thing to do. So the following day, which was Sunday, I visited the house. When I expressed my heartfelt gratitude, Mr. David West waved it off. It was nothing. Ine thought it strange you were attending university and didn't own a laptop. So we went shopping together for one, and she picked it out herself. So I hope you like it and it is suitable for your use. I laughed and said I had a hard time imagining him picking out a pink laptop, and he chuckled. He invited me to stay for dinner, mentioning that Dobra had returned to her home. I accepted the invitation. Without Dobra, it was a much pleasant affair. After dinner, we talked about my goals and how he could support me. And somewhere in the conversation, I got carried away and assumed he was interested in being intimate with me. I was the girl who had to allow her uncle to grope her, or her school fees will not be paid. And here was this man offering to give me a scholarship so I could go to school full-time and rent a place close to my university. I made the mistake of assuming he wanted to sleep with me, and I offered myself, and not out of compulsion, but because I liked him. He looked taken aback, which made me somewhat confused. But when he explained that sleeping with me was the farthest thing from his mind, my confusion turned to shame. Not only at my brazen behavior, but because I remembered Dobra had told me to know my place. How could I have forgotten my place? Why would a man like Mr. David West be interested in sleeping with a woman like me? I apologized profusely for the misunderstanding and left in a hurry. That night, I replayed the scene countless times, berating myself as I recounted Nengi's kindness to me. How could I have even considered sleeping with her husband? I felt I had betrayed the one woman who, after my mother, had shown me kindness. Guilt, shame, and regret caused tears to run down my face. The matter was far from over. Before the close of business the following day, my employer, Mrs. Banigo, pulled me aside for a private chat. Nefe, I brought you from Port Harcourt, and you have been a dedicated staff member and make hair excellently. But I can't have you sleeping with the husbands of the women who come here to make their hair. It's bad for business. Your job ends today. I will give you a severance package so you can find another place to live. I'm sorry, Nefe. Dobra had followed through on her threat. Either Tam or Ine might have mentioned my visit to her. My heart raced as I contemplated my next steps. Having not worked or lived anywhere else since my arrival in Lagos over 2 years ago, I felt lost about what to do next. It was not the way I had envisaged starting the year. Nevertheless, I accepted my termination as punishment for betraying Nengi, and without defending myself, collected my severance pay. That night I sobbed as I packed my meager belongings and thought about where I would go on such short notice. I had only one friend in school, named Gina, who lived off campus. When I called her, she offered to let me stay with her for a quarter of the rent while I found my own place. The next morning, with help from a colleague in the salon, I moved in. Even though I knew better, I was sad and thought constantly of Tam, wondering if he would care about my situation. A week later, I came back from class and saw Tam outside Gina's flat, leaning against the hood of a sports car, as if my thoughts had summoned him. "Good evening, sir," I greeted. "Sir?" he repeated, eyebrow raised, curious about my formal greeting. When my silence persisted, he gave a slight nod. "Do you have a moment to chat?" I nodded and we sat in his car and we talked for over an hour. He began by apologizing for the difficulties I had faced because of my association with him. He explained that Ini and her nanny had informed him that I no longer worked at the salon, which upset Ini greatly because she didn't know where I had gone. Her distress motivated him to search for me and uncover the truth about what had happened. He learned that Dobra, who had bribed the security guard to alert her whenever I visited the house, had also lodged a complaint with my employer, resulting in my dismissal. He assured me that the guard had been replaced and that Dobra had been reprimanded. She would no longer interfere in his personal matters. I appreciate you informing me, I said once he finished speaking. Dobra advised me to stay away, and she was right to do so. I should have listened to her, so in a way, I am partly to blame for my situation. As I tried to open the door and climb out of the vehicle, he prevented me. Nefe, let me support you, as I initially proposed. I shook my head, as I was still embarrassed about offering myself to him. You don't have to do that. I have my severance package, a little savings and a skill, so I can fend for myself. I will be fine. He pinched the bridge of his nose and shut his eyes, taking a deep breath. I know you're very resourceful, but I want to take care of you. The other night I was taken aback when you offered yourself to me, and I may have responded in the wrong way. I do want to be intimate with you, but not in the way you suggested. I'm not looking for a fling. My wife is gone and I want to marry again. You are wonderful with Ini, and she adores you. I find you very attractive, and what I want is for us to get to know each other better and see if we can become a family. His offer caught me off guard because I never imagined he would be interested in me. Then I quickly reminded myself that it wasn't necessarily about me. He was looking for the right woman to be a mother to his daughter. Still, I was amazed that he was proposing marriage. I wanted to say yes, but I said no, because I still hadn't overcome the guilt I felt for betraying Nengi. Tam didn't share my view that I'd betrayed Nengi, but he didn't try to sway me. He was patient and helped me out financially, expecting nothing. He also invited me to hang out with him and Ini frequently. For an entire year, he was there for me without defining our relationship. In the end, I came to terms with the fact that Nengi was gone and that Tam needed to move on. He had mourned her and honored her memory without my interfering in that process. I loved Ini as if she were my own daughter, with no agenda other than to be a good mother to her, while keeping her mother's memory alive. With that realization, I finally gave our relationship a label. We dated for 3 months before getting married. Tam was everything Nengi had described him to be. I recall how her eyes sparkled when she spoke of him. On our wedding day, my eyes shone with the same joy as I looked up at him and vowed to love him and Ini for the rest of my life. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of episode 16 of DOZ Monologues. DOZ Monologues will return next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave your comments and subscribe, like and share if listening on YouTube. To contact me, please visit my website eturuvieerebor.com or email me at eturuvie@eturuvieerebor.com. I invite all story lovers to explore my novels and novellas available on Amazon and Google Books. For audiobook enthusiasts, they are also on Audible. Thank you for listening. I am your favorite storyteller, Eturuvie Erebor, and I'll be here next Friday with another story.